right, Coach.
All right, guys, we're almost 2 weeks out from playing a football game. It's been great group to work with. I look at goodness, the effort that they've put in to build their bodies to get to this point, and it's neat to see us put together, again, a few drives against the offense, and to see these guys go out and compete. As we're continuing to build, these defensive players and put in this defensive scheme, we're looking to put the best guys out there, and I think we've made good progress so far.
I know it's been a couple practices since, but Saturday you held your first scrimmage. What are some of the biggest takeaways that you got from watching your guys?
Yeah, I think that we're getting closer to being calloused to be ready to play a football game. I think that it's been good this last week to get some good heat, that sun in the afternoon, and I think that as far as our guys are showing great understandings for what we're doing schematically, and so now it's a matter for us to really put one more scrimmage under our belt, get an idea as far as truly who are our two deep, and really press forward with our game plan as we get ready for game one.
When you look at depth at that linebacker position, when you see Landon Danley, how far do you think he's come in the last 2 years, and what have you seen him grow?
Yeah, Landon was one of those young men that we had an opportunity to evaluate. Played quarterback, played safety. His freshman year was a safety here. And what he's done is he's gone from a 190-pound quarterback in high school to a 230-pound linebacker. And so that speaks for itself as far as the work that he's put in. And again, the opportunity, he took advantage of playing a lot of football last season. His ability to slip blocks, find the ball, and his overall understanding of the defense. It's been awesome to see him mature, and I tell you what, he's going to be super productive on defense and special teams.
Yeah, John, I think 4 of the first 5 weeks, you guys faced teams with new offensive coordinators, including the first 2 weeks. How challenging did that make your summer scouting and preparation and getting ready for who's on your schedule, the early scouting?
Yeah, I think that's every year because you just don't know, particularly early in the season, people's identity. What's really unique is, with so many personnel changes throughout college football, you're also trying to evaluate who's going to be the quarterback, which I think really drives what people want to do offensively. From that coordinator standpoint, you have to do some digging. You have to go back a few years sometimes. You have to, project, and then you have to be ready for a ton of different contingencies. And, that's really our job as coaches is to put our guys through tough scenarios. And so when they get out there and they see something that maybe we didn't practice or they haven't seen in a few weeks, that they're ready, they can, adapt and frankly go be able to make plays.
I was going to say, out of the gate with Coastal, you guys saw them last year. They were very quarterback run-driven. They bring in a coordinator that's been in an air raid guy his whole life. Do you throw out the Coastal film from last year? Do you still look at it to see certain personnel? How do you kind of evaluate that?
Yeah, I think you always look introspectively first. You got to look at, hey, in our self-scout, what are areas that people potentially want to expose, of areas that, hey, maybe we didn't, that screen and go, or maybe there's a run concept that showed up a few times that we didn't fit as well as we'd like. So you first look at yourself. Second piece is then but like with a group like that, golly, they can do so much. They got talent, they got talented personnel. They have the ability with, again, their head coach has got unbelievable offensive experience, matched with the tremendous coordinator. So, we'll have our hands full in preparation, as we really dive into that this weekend.
Jason Hammond obviously started well last year, got injured, missed the spring. Just kind of how has he bounced back from that in the early part of preseason?
Yeah, Jason, another young man that has worked his tail off. You just look at his body, almost 300 pounds. He's got unbelievable movement skills and his ability to transitional pass rush. I tell you what, we missed him late last season. He's looked really, really good in camp. And we're excited to see him be able to, win on some guards and golly, use him in a different, be able to play technique and be able to move him throughout our front. But he's one of those young men we're counting on to play a ton of snaps and play a ton of productive snaps this fall.
Coach Elliott always talks about rolling defensive linemen. You may have enough depth to do that. I assume there are positives with that, but are there any challenges with that as a coordinator, having to figure out who to use when or anything like that?
No, I think what it is guys earn the right to play through what they put on film and practice, and then also their body of work that they've had throughout their career. And so, we're blessed. I mean, we got a bunch of guys that we can roll throughout our defensive front. Excited to think the different combinations. You try to match the different combinations, and you just want to make sure, as a coaching staff, we make sure that we're mixing those combinations throughout practice so that if we're running a pass rush game or the communication piece, that those different guys know exactly what we're going to do. And but no, it's a exciting, to be able to have as many bodies as we do, and they're going to be super productive as well.
You mentioned Corey Cosner in the spring as a guy that could possibly make an early impact. You guys have been impressed with him. Josiah Persinger came in May in the summer. What have you seen from him? Can he be a guy that could make an early impact as well?
Yeah, Josiah comes from one of the best high school programs in the state. Again, he was a guy that was one of the fastest young men in the country when it comes to track. And so, you see great recoverability speed. You see great top end, But again, was raised the right way. Came from a great family, and he is tough. And so it's been fun to see him get opportunities to go compete against, really talented receiving corps that our offense has. And, the sky's the limit as he continues to take advantage of all the awesome resources in the weight room, nutrition. He's gonna play a bunch of football here for the Hoos.
Yeah, Devin Neal, how's he progressed? I know he's brought in maybe with the idea of being a guy who can make a lot of tackles out of that safety spot like you guys have traditionally had at that position. What have you seen from him, his progression from spring until now?
Yeah, again, you're blessed when you get to work with those guys that are college graduates, and he's just physically, he's a grown man as far as he's one of those guys we didn't have to create a great foundation for him. He already had a great foundation, and now it's for us is honing his skills. Coach Cox and Coach Brown, they're doing an unbelievable job as far as continuing to build on his football intelligence. But super intentional with how he prepares, and he's a guy that has proven it with ACC accolades already, and schematically, he can do a lot for us as far as holding the disguise, playing man coverage, and like you mentioned, he loves to tackle. He wants to be on the ball. He's a guy that plays with great effort.
What's the thing you can't quantify while trying to replace Jonas? Like, what's something that Jonas just did that you guys aren't going to be able to replicate without him?
Yeah, I think, tell you what, how hard he played. And I think that, you show the film and you just watch him. A guy that he's going to go sideline to sideline. His contribution on special teams was tremendous. But we got a bunch of guys that kind of look at that example and they see that modeling as far as what that looks like. And I'm excited to say there's a bunch of guys that are practicing that way, that are preparing that way. And now it's one thing to talk about. It's one thing to practice that way. It's another thing for those guys to now put that type of film out there.
With so many grad students and guys with 5th, 6th, 7th years of experience coming in, speak to the maturation of those guys and their football IQ, and how can that change the overall picture of what you're trying to do and your defense?
Yeah, anytime that you bring in guys that have been, in great programs, been coached by great coaches, what's great is that you can get great feedback as well. And when you work with a young man, and he's been in the program for 4 or 5 years, or he's coming in from another program and is, a 4th or a 5th year, what you do is you get to leverage all the experience that they have, and they bring new ideas, or they may say, hey, coach, technique-wise, have you thought of this? What if we do it this way? and that relationship's a little bit different, and that's earned through experience, and that's what it is really neat to have guys that we're working with at all levels, you know, in the defensive line, linebacker, and then also DB that have had great college football experiences. And you know what? Now it's a matter for us as a staff to continue to put that together to make sure that all the pieces tie together so we can go play good, sound, tough defense.
And what has impressed you about Trey McDonald in this camp?
Yeah, Trey McDonald's ability to play multiple spots, you know, our Mike or our Will. You know what? He is tough and hard-nosed and super smart, can make all the checks, which I tell you what, when you have somebody out there that has that type of leadership, that type of football knowledge, it allows other guys to play faster. And ultimately, it's one thing for you to play fast, but to help another teammate to do so is a special attribute, and he does a great job at that.